Hi, I'm John Haskell, 50% of Team Atlantic Dash. Two firefighters from Cardiff, myself and a friend, Jamie Windsor, decided to row the Atlantic for charity after my wife contracted breast cancer a few years ago. And breast cancer care was so wonderful, I wanted to do something big and chivalrous back for charity, and also have an adventure to maybe cure a bit of my midlife crisis too. So here's a little bit of my story. Please sit back and enjoy. Atlantic Dash, obviously we got the flames, we were firefighters, and we got the water for the ocean, and the dash will become apparent a little bit later on. So there's our boat. You can see she's a 21-foot ocean-class rowing boat. Excuse me. Technology, eh? So there's, you can see, solar panel. She's 21 foot long. We've got a cabin fore and aft. That's our sleeping cabin, just big enough for one. And the idea is we row shifts on and shifts off. We never have to get in the cabin together, which is great. If you've ever seen that scene from Planes, Trains and Automobiles with John Candy in the hotel, it's like that. So this boat now is stacked up to the gunnels with electronics and gadgets, and for a gadget geek like me, that's fantastic. I'd say we had all little lockers and holes for the food. It was absolutely jam-packed up to the gunnels with all our supplies for what we thought was going to take up to 90 days. The most important bit of kit, I suppose, would be in the water maker, electric water maker, run by solar power. Charge a bank of batteries, and we had quite a generous amount of electricity for the journey. There's electronics, so GPS, basically a car sat-nav, a tom-tom for the sea. Tell us exactly where we are at any given moment, our destination, our bearing, which is a great bit of kit. Our banker switches, bilge pump, lights, running lights, and so forth. Electronic identification system, our boat would give off a signal because a big danger across the Atlantic is getting run down by some of these big cargo vessels. That worked really well. That would alert us to any ship within a 25-mile radius, and we'd get on the radio then and alert them that we're here, we're a bit small, please keep an eye out for us. These are all the supplies. Nearly half a ton of supplies went into the boat with the water ballast, the food, super freeze-dried lightweight rations. Again, for 90 days. So we couldn't take sort of wet, made-up food. It would have been far too heavy. So this food was made up with a water maker. We'd boil water, add half a litre of water to one of these packets, and we had quite nice meals. Medical supplies was another thing we took. Obviously, there was no backup. We took a complete trauma kit, medical supplies, antibiotics, really strong prescription drugs. As part of qualifying for the event, we had to do several courses. We had to do, obviously, to learn your navigation. We had to do our Ocean Yacht Masters course, our day skippers, sea survival. And you can see us here, this is our sea survival course, learning how to get in and out of a life raft, how to survive in a life raft, the dangers of flora and fauna if you're any long time in a life raft. Also, all aspects of astral navigation, that should you be alone at sea, you have some idea of where you are, where you're going. This is our leaving, our departure, very emotional. Jamie and I both sobbed. We had a lot of friends and family there. The local press were out, and our families and friends, as I say, it was very, very emotional. It took us a good few hours to get over leaving, because as far as we thought, we were going to be 90 days at sea, going into all sorts of dangers. It was bad weather. We were delayed a day. So we knew we were going straight out into bad weather, and I'll stand you admit to being absolutely terrified. Especially when people were sending me photos like this. This was the Atlantic the year before we left in February. And you can see the width of that supercargo vessel there. So friends were kind enough to send me photos like this. And I thanked them. But we did encounter storms like this for weeks and weeks at a time. But lucky that little boat is designed so well, it's self-righting, and it bobs up and down over those waves. It was absolutely fantastic the way she just danced up and down the waves. We really got an affection for the boat. So this was to be my view for the next, what we thought was going to be 3 months. You can see the aft cabin, our water container. Our water maker was locked away in there, and it would supply the water into there. Our transponder for giving off a signal, so other vessels knew where we were. You see the oars stowed there. This would just obviously be the beginning of a shift. Jamie would have just got in the cabin after finishing 3 hours. We worked 3 hours on, 3 hours off for the whole duration, which worked quite well. And towards the end, our bodies got quite accustomed, our bladders, our appetites, everything got accustomed to 3 hours on, 3 hours off. Completely changed our body clock. It worked quite well. As I say, we left straight out into bad weather, so the row is done naked, and people sort of chuckle at that. But it is, even when we were wearing our foul weather gear, because it did get quite chilly, wherever you got clothes, they contact your wrists, your collar, that any hems, we just got rubbed raw, and the salt sores were horrific, anywhere that touched. And spending 3 weeks, you know, it's like an hour in a bath when you get wrinkly. We spent weeks and weeks soaking wet from salt spray. This is a life raft. This photo was taken from the bridge of a cruise ship that rescued one of the other vessels. 50-foot waves. They sunk, they got broadsided by a huge wave. Their aft cabin flooded, so they were sunk and they were upright in the water, nose up, you know, forward up. They had to dive down for 50 minutes in 50-foot waves to release the life raft that had been tangled up in some rigging down in the bottom after the cabin. So they spent all night in a life raft, let off their emergency beacon, and the closest vessel that came to them overnight was a cruise ship on its way to the Caribbean. So they ended up on the captain's table, shipwreck survivors, heroes, in borrowed tuxedos, eating lobster and caviar. We were a bit jealous. This was about 10 days in. Okay, that's our living quarters. You can see how cramped it is, just about enough room for one. There's electronics. You can see our personal kit there. Everything we took personal for the kit for the trip had to fit in these nets because of space and weight. And there's some factor extra, every kilo of weight over the optimum weight of the boat will put 12 hours on your journey. And we didn't want that, obviously. Satellite phone, which only worked intermittently because it just wouldn't connect to the satellite because the boat was being rocked about so much for weeks and weeks. It just would not get a lock on the satellites. Christmas. I did my best to smile. But, yeah, Christmas Day come and went. We opened our Christmas packages that we had from the family. You know, it was quite tearful. A little card off my little girl and my little boy and my wife. And it was quite tearful. I had a musical tie, which I couldn't even bother to tie properly. And we had a little bottle of whiskey and a bar of chocolate for breakfast, and then we just carried on rowing. Because it was so rough, we had to row to keep the boat square into the waves. Otherwise, we'd get broadsided, and that's when you would have gone over. So I was 3 hours on, 3 hours off. We had to stick to rigidly. But then, towards the end, the weather came out. It was fantastic. You know, we had some fantastic sunshine. In fact, it got too hot. It was 40-odd degrees, and every surface on the boat got scorching hot. So, you know, you couldn't put your elbow on anything. It'd be absolutely red hot. And it meant we'd have to get in the water. And obviously, sharks are an issue. We saw sharks most days, you know, some small, some big, oceanic white tips. And they follow vessels. They follow boats for scraps and things. So we had to have a little bit of a shark watch before we could jump in the water. But it got flat enough that we could have a break. And some days we didn't row for a couple of hours. We'd have a break. We'd sit and have a meal together. Because our sole relationship was just grunting on the cabin door as one went in and come went out. So it was fantastic to sit for 20 minutes and have a meal together. Say relentless sunshine. I haven't got a hat on there, but you know, we had to wear hats, sunblock, factor 50 sunblock. The sun was a real hazard. We'd get in the boat then. You can see we've got a nice flat day. We'd get into the water. We'd have safety leashes on. But we'd get in the water just to have a look at something different on the horizon because it was just relentless, this big horizon, 360. And we saw a rainbow one day, and it was like, wow, look, a rainbow, quick. But we'd get in the water, have a little look at the boat, take some photos, have a swim, a cool down. Food was an issue. Our water makers broke. Not sort of water makers, really, our cookers broke. The first 3 weeks, it was too rough to even try and get some hot water going. It was just splashing everywhere. So we didn't have any hot food for 3 weeks. And then we had a period, we had some hot food we were boiling up, and then the cookers broke. So over the whole duration of the trip, we had 3 cups of coffee and 6 hot meals. And these rehydrated rations are high-calorie expedition rations. They're made with shredded fat, which the energy comes from, and the fat would congeal in our mouths from the cold water, and we'd have to scrape it out with wet wipes after every meal. So I actually lost 4 stone on the trip. I put a couple back on now, I know. But I lost 4 stone as I stepped off the boat. I was 4 stone light. I was living on, you know, you're supposed to eat 6,000 calories a day because we're burning 10. I was living on 1,000 calories a day. I'm going to do it every Christmas now, ready for the beach in the summer. Blisters were an issue. I see the hand there. This is they were drying now and actually getting a little bit better. So, you know, they'd stop weeping and they were healing up. It was dry. We were having a fantastic time then. It was sunny. We were rowing great. We had our music playing. You know, we had an absolutely fantastic time. Even our feet were falling apart. And it was just, the sun couldn't have come out quick enough. I think that really saved us having some proper injury. As I actually lost all the skin, and there's no way of putting it politely, on my undercarriage. Between the cheeks of my bottom were boils. And it was as if somebody poured a kettle full of hot water. The salt burns and the salt sores were that bad. And I couldn't row for 24 hours. I just sat and cried. I cried a lot during this trip. Don't tell anyone. And then, again, we'd have a little swim, we'd have some recreation, we'd done some swimming, we didn't catch any fish, we had a 60-pound heavy line, but anything we caught just snapped the line off. It was fantastic. The rods would just go zzz, and it just snap. It was quite dramatic, you know, it was like the scene from Jaws. So we did have a swim, but obviously we'd only ever go in the water when there was 2 on shark watch, because they were a menace. Jamie and I actually fought this. We had him in a headlock, and we punched him, we gouged him in the eyes, and off he went. That's not my fingers, by the way. So then we saw land, and what an ecstatic feeling. Like, I can't even bring the emotion here to that. All the Christmases, even, you know, it's even up there with the children being born, just to see land, you know, and knowing that the family were there, the children were there, my father, my wife, my kids, friends were there, and just, we would have this amazing reception in Barbados. And the actual finish line is the north of the island, a longitude point. And we had a 5-hour row then to get to the marina. And we actually rushed and rushed and rushed. But then once we crossed the finish line, we actually slowed down and just savoured being there, savoured the water being calm, because we knew what was coming. It was just building up into this great big welling of emotion. Again, there's Jamie's mum with the binoculars. There's my wife in the middle and a friend. The Welsh flag again. You know, we were so excited. It was unbelievable. And they were probably feeling the same excitement as we were rowing in, you know. So that was their first view of us. Jamie and I rowing in. Some of the other teams that come in first, we actually come out 4th out of 17 teams, but only 9 teams completed because the conditions that year were the worst they've ever been. 9 boats got sunk, rescued. They say one crew ended up on a cruise ship, one crew ended up on a rusty old cargo ship, ended up in South Africa somewhere. And then that jubilant moment of stepping ashore, again, I just cannot convey that feeling of being at sea. We just crave stillness. We used to play the crave game. What do you crave? Food, you know, and everything. It was just stillness is all we craved. And that's my favourite photo. See my father's hand there even in that photo, Jamie and his wife. And, you know, that really is my favourite photo. It just sums up the whole emotion. A little hug with the wife even. The Barbados Fire Service were there to meet us. We actually wrote a plaque across to them. We'd been talking on the internet and something. That was fantastic. We made some fantastic friends. My transfer's in already. And there's the Welsh flag looking a bit battered and things. So I'm hoping to take this to the South Pole now in 2 years. There's the actual Scott route across the South Pole. I just broke that to the wife now. And that's my favourite photo again with the kids. You know, it just sums up all the emotion. And if I could now, it seems a bit cheating maybe playing a video when you're doing a talk, but this video was done fresh when it was 20 minutes off the boat, so it really captures the emotion of coming off the boat. And so if I can apologise and just put you through a video for several minutes and maybe explain a little bit of my story. Thank you very much.
So they've been 45 days at sea, and now there is, what, less than a mile to go for the amazing Welsh firefighters, John and Jamie, Atlantic Dash. They've literally just rowed in front of our boat now, and they're so excited to get home. They've got some amazing stories, they've had some incredible adventures, and it's been one huge Talisker Whiskey Atlantic challenge for them. 3,000 miles later, and they're romping in 4th. Hey, welcome home!
Thank you very much.
How do you feel?
Yeah, fantastic, superb, brilliant.
What are you most looking forward to?
Seeing my wife, simple as that. I'm a bit spaced out, if I'm honest. Yeah, it's a bit, I haven't really, because it's been alright, because you just come around the corner and you just row, and it's just a nice relaxing, oh, this is the last row, and I haven't really thought about it, because it's going to just get emotional if I think about it.
Would you do it again?
Not this week. The hero's welcome wasn't expected.
Now officially fallen into hero category. How does that feel?
Well, we never looked at it like that. It was never done for that reason, you know. It's like a big self-test, and we both sung off the same song she thought away. We've done it to test ourselves. We didn't do it for anyone else. It was great. It was massive waves. It's terrifying, you know, to live on your nerves for days at a time, you know. Terrified you're going to be rolled over, terrified you're going to be swept away from the boat. It was horrific, wasn't it, you know?
That boat, for some reason, there's been several capsizes on the trip. For some reason, that boat will not go over.
We've been hit broadside on monster waves, and the boat has just scraped down the wave instead of gripping and going over. And just to have that confidence in the boat. In the end, when we were out first, we had these monster waves breaking on us, And it was terrified. The pair of us would get up the cabin like this, and we get in this, and you just row, and there'd be these big waves, and I'd scream out, like, Jamie, hold on, and this monster wave would come over you. And then 3 days later, when our cook was working, we sat making a cup of coffee, these waves coming over like...
So you sleep in the cabin, you kind of all going mellow, and your mates row in, and all of a sudden there's a massive crash. You get slammed into the side of the cabin, and you just look out the door, and all you see is your mate, who's been smashed down the other end of the boat. He's kind of limping back to his seat. You're like, you're right. He's like, yeah, I'm
So
right.
you actually get knocked out of your seat.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, in the dark as well, you don't know what's coming. It's just, and it's violent. It's not like a big whoosh. It's like whoosh, and then you're in the bottom of the boat. It's winded.
So you've got no sort of warning that this is about to come.
Nothing at all, right? And then you're in the bottom of the boat, winded. I dislocated a finger. It's dislocated my little finger. Jamie broke his thumb. It's just so violent. My knee was up like this for about 2 weeks. When we went over and the oar caught on it, and it snapped the oar. Carbon fibre oar snapped the oar, like, you know. It's just so violent. Then it's back home, a couple of weeks off work. Back to reality then, springtime, summertime. Couldn't pick a better time of year to do it, really. I had some days of utter elation. Just indescribable highs, you know, the highs that I've never had in my life, like, you know, the absolute just bubbling burst with energy highs. You've got your iPod on, you've got a good track on, like whatever, and you just want to stand up and do air guitar because you're just like absolutely just smashed. It's fantastic.
You've seen the sea and you've seen a couple of flying fish, and you might have seen a bird, but basically you've seen nothing but each other. And then all of a sudden this bus comes out of the water. There's just enormous, the biggest animal you've ever seen in your life comes out of the water.
Big and gentle and slow and just
got a real cool about it. Just like, yeah, I'm the man. Just like, it was just fantastic.
Oh, well, you saw the whale, didn't you? You saw the sperm whale.
Yeah, he just popped up and went.
But then on my
watch, they came to have a look at you, did they?
Yeah, they check you out.
The boat. It's unbelievable. Like. We're in these monster waves, and the boat is at 45 degrees coming down the wave, and the whale is in the wave next to the boat. So I'm led back in the boat like this, rowing, and there's a whale by there, like, you know.
Surfing in the same way.
The whale was surfing.
Swam with a whale, 1,000 miles off the coast, 2.5 miles out of my depth. Swam with a whale. We were surfing waves in the middle of the Atlantic, so probably about 800 miles off each shore. And it's like 50, 60 foot waves, and the ones you're surfing are about 20 foot that really pitch up. And you suddenly think, I'm surfing a wave, 800 miles off the coast, I'm 2.5 miles out of my depth.
Yeah, it's
It's really good fun. This is a bit bonkers. And when you're halfway across and you're a bit down and you suddenly find all these people are behind you and following you and are into what you're doing, it's unreal.
With hellish conditions, more boats needing rescue than ever before, and the hardships each member of all 17 boats has faced, just why would you enter the TEDxCardiff Atlantic Challenge? Atlantic Dash have the answer.
I met an old lady. We were doing an inspection in the fire service, and she was in her 80s in an old people's home, and she was going along with a Zimmer frame. She was on her right mission, and we got talking. And she said, she just stopped and she said, I'll give you a bit of advice, collect memories, because that's one day that's all you'll have. And she's absolutely right, and I've never forgotten it. And it's stuff like that, it's just a memory you've got for the rest of your life.
People say, oh, it's hardly a dash, is it? But the dash is a poem. Okay. And it talks about a guy at a funeral, and he's sad that he's talking at his friend's funeral, and he's on about the dates on the gravestones. And he works out then, it's not the dates that's important, it's the dash in the middle. And so the dash is what you do with your dash in between your date of birth and your date of death. So it's live your dash. It matters not the houses, the cars, the cash. It's how you live and love and spend your dash, you know. Fill your dash up, and that's where dash comes from. So that ethos is what's brought us together and taken us through this, like, you know.
Your dash is pretty awesome.
Yeah, happy with it.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.